What's up, dude?
You already know. Luigi's here. Welcome to Luigi's Wild Mustang Garage, and we're in phase 2. We're gonna do the bodywork. And what I mean by the bodywork, that's where you make the car laser straight. You strip it down to metal, we put the primer on it, we see where all the dents and scratches are, and that's how we fix things around here, because that's how we put the stink on Luigi's Wild Mustang Garage builds. Back in the day when these here cars were fixed, they never put anything together perfect. I guarantee you see this door's never been off the car. The factory defects I'm talking about, you see how this body line is not lined up? Looks like it is here, but it's not there. On the contours is where you see it. This is a factory defect. They didn't care when they were sending these cars down the line. These cars were constantly moving, and they had to put them on before it got to the next section of people working on the cars. So things like that got overlooked. And then things like this. I've seen a couple of different cars, because I've been around a lot of years of Mustangs and everything, and I've seen a couple of different Fastbacks with defects right here, where 3 panels all come together here, and this panel right here is in a dent. It's a factory defect. It should have been fixed before it left the factory. And we have another one over here. Here's another body panel that should have been fixed from the factory. This is a factory defect. There's absolutely positively no way possible this car could have this dent in there from an accident, because it shows no signs of any work being done. A look on the inside of the rear quarter, it tells me that this is a factory defect. And I've seen other cars that have this, and previous owners were the only owners of the car, and they guaranteed me that it was a factory defect on their car. So that helps to signify and justify what I'm saying. Well, I did a prior inspection on it when I first bought the car. I looked underneath it. I couldn't look beyond the fenders, beyond the doors, and all the hidden areas of the trunk. But now that we tore the car apart, I see that it's got all its original screws, it's got its original butt tags. You look at the undercoating, nothing's never been hit, creased, or crunched. You got all the existing screws and nuts and bolts that belong in the car. And in the back of the trunk is another true way to tell if this car's ever been in an accident. You put your hand up inside and you feel all the way up inside here on the inside, and you just keep circling with your hand and see if you feel anything at all, any bodywork, any kind of metal work or welding, replacing a rear quarter is a no, because this car is smooth. It's got all the factory feel to it on the inside. And over here on this side, I did the same thing. Feel all the way up inside above the wheel well, and put your hand deep inside the crevice of that, and you want to see if you feel any beads or weld or anything there. And I know for a fact, I'm the 3rd owner of this car. And the paint job on this car is only the 2nd paint job it's ever seen, other than the factory paint job. Water is always able to get into the trunk, no matter how good of a seal you got going on. Somehow, water's gonna find its way into areas in the corners and the nooks and crannies. And we've had the only one issue that we have about rust is here in the trunk. And I had a little bit of rust up in here. Now, it's real hard to get up into these areas, even with a wire wheel or a hand brush. So what I'm doing is I'm using the acid dip. And as soon as you put this stuff right here, this is the acid dip. When you put this onto the metal, it turns the rust into black metal, and it never comes back ever again. And after we did this yesterday, I can see that I need to put another layer on there. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't like getting near this stuff on my hand at all. Oh, there we go. Got a nice application there. I think we need a new brush. I'm gonna just put a bunch of metal conditioner right in there. You see the rust? You see that red stuff in there? And the gold looks like gold? You'll come back to that in about 2-3 hours and it'll be coal black. Turn to black steel. That's one of the things that I always, pride myself on. I like to try and keep the thickness of the body. This being the unibody, it's the body of the car that is the frame structure. So it's imperative that you try and keep the authenticity of the vehicle in terms of the thickness of the body. There is one other area here. We found some rust on the bottom front corner of the door. It's actually rotted only on the inside panel, not the outside panel. So we're gonna dig into this metal here. I'm gonna put some of the acid dip on it so that it gets at everything, but I still wanna cut some of this metal out and put some super epoxy back. It's a tough area to work. Okay, yesterday we went and took out the carpet. We really couldn't see what was going on here with the floorboards until we pulled the rug out and pulled the underlayment. The underlayment was stuck so badly, severely, I had to chisel it out. So once I got the underlayment off, I was able to put a vision on the floor here. I grinded the floor with the wire wheel, and then I went ahead and put some acid dip on the metal. And so far, I've done that process twice. And what it does is it takes the rust and turns it into black steel. I'm gonna fiberglass the bottom of the floor. There's some pinholes in here, and it's in an area where I can't really get at, and put a piece of metal in there. And what I want to do is put some fiberglass in there. The rocker panel, one day I was riding down the highway and some lady in a Cadillac turned into me and crunched my door, and this right here took a hit to the rocker panel all the way back to about here. It's right here where she took the hit. It's got a dip right here. And this is the only area, the only time this car's ever been hit was with me. Tried to fix it, but there's just too much going on here. I don't like it. I want it to be better, so we have a Mustang out back. We took the piece off of it and we marked it off, and we're gonna put this one in its place. And also, now that we got it this far apart, look at how perfect that thing's fitting, and it's gonna put a nice bead of weld in there, grind it down, and you'll never even know it. But you see this here? This wiring harness right here, this is factory. It still has the corrugated wrap on it from the factory. This has never ever been opened before. Never been touched. It still has the factory grommet cover on it. It's an awesome look. It really is. Well, I'm gonna paint this with some special primer. It's called 3M Weld-In Primer. It's color silver, but what you can do is you can weld with this here on. Regular paint you can't. So. seeing that this car has never been in any accidents. There's no twists or any weld frames on the frame. There's absolutely no appearance at all that this car's been ditched or that it's been jumped or that it's actually been into any kind of an accident at all whatsoever. There's telltale signs. Nothing, all the panels are all original. The frame's all original. You don't see an attachment here. There's no rust on this car, just a little bit of surface rust here and there. And I'm gonna actually grind this out, this area. There's a little bit of surface rust up in here. It's gonna be real hard to get at it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna condition it with the acid metal. And that'll take care of it. And back here, and all around the back side. And down around the back side of this here, we're gonna put some metal condition on it. It's just real tough to get in there. If you're not gonna sandblast the car and you're gonna clean the body, the bottom side of the car by hand, then that's what you have to do. You're gonna wire wheel everything. But most of this just needs to be pressure washed. It'll all clean up. There's just a lot of grease from tires flipping up stuff from the road and sticking to the body. Other than that, this car is real perfectly clean. I mean, you can actually see the color of the body from the factory. It's still got all the factory color to it. This car has never been touched with. It's never been hampered. It's never been there's no body work that's been done to it. There's no welds with the panels. Usually all rust around here. They always rust around here. We got a few issues here. I'll get to it in a minute. Remind me about that. But the rest of this body is in perfect shape, the underneath of the car. What tells you another telltale sign is it's got the overspray on the car. When the car was being painted going down the assembly line in the factory, in the warehouse, overspray gets on the body. And you can see the overspray still on the body. It's amazing that is still in that type of condition. Okay, I'm trying to scrape off all the excess and undercoating that's ready to fall off. I'm not using a metal scraper, I'm using a plastic scraper so it doesn't scratch the metal, because I want to get as much of the undercoat off as I possibly can. A lot of this is still real good undercoat. We just need to pressure wash it before we undercoat it again. Well, a lot of the old's not going to come off. If you see, it doesn't want to come off because it's bonded so well to the body. I just want to get the parts of the undercoating off that are going to fall off down the road. So if we spray undercoat on this and down the road, it starts chipping away again, it's because I didn't do my due diligence and go around and look at all the spots that need to be chipped off. I want to degrease the whole bottom of this car. The front end, the axles, the tie rod links, all of these parts are greased all over them, and I want to degrease them. That's what I mainly wanted to do today, is get all the grease off the car so that when I'm ready I can grind anything I want. 90% of this is not going to be grinded because this is all factory underneath. We're just going to undercoat over it. The areas of question would be the frame rails, the connectors, supports. The rear frame rails, I already wire wheeled them. There was no grease on them. And we're gonna go ahead and put some primer on them today because we don't want no weather to get in here at it. These frame rails are connecting rails. It connects the front subframe to the rear subframe. This is a unibody car. It flexes like a clamshell. When you go railroad tracks, it wants to twist and everything. And by welding it from the front rail to the rear wheel, turns this into a full frame car. We completely stripped the car down, took the wiring harness, took the engine, took out the rear end and most of the front end suspension system. We rolled the car over on the rotisserie, undercoated it, put the car back on its own wheels. Now it's a roller. Now we're going to put all the body panels back on to do what's called a mock-up. We need to adjust every fender, every bezel, every extension, every hood. All the gaps have to match and align. And we had some panel damage over here, we replaced it. But actually, marking up the car is what makes the car look sweet. That's sweetening up the car, is all these gaps have to line up on all the door panels, the rear quarter, the trunk, when the door shuts, how the jamb works, and the gap is with the jamb. And as soon as we're done marking up the car, that's when we'll walk around the car and look for the dents. And we're gonna handle the dents and fix everything while the panels are still on the car. Then when we're done, we're gonna strip the car again and paint each panel separately. Then we have to remark the car up again. But we have to tape off all the edges to make sure when you put a fender on, you're not banging into the hood and you're chipping the paint. So we always put a strip of paint, a strip of tape on both sides, so that when we put the panels back together, we're not meshing the two paint against paint, it's tape against tape. I wanted to clean up where the rubber grommet goes around the bottom edge of the door, and it comes all the way up here. So I was grinding with the grinding wheel to take all the glue and everything off, and as I was grinding, I got to where there's some rot on the inside of the car. When it rains and water comes in through the door and you got the wiper guides here and they're not working right, water will come down inside the door into the bottom panel of the car, and it will sit right there, and that's why we got rust issues right here. But it's not a major problem. We'll probably just put some resin over that and forget about it. Last night we went and block sanded this here rear quarter right here, and it's all nice and smooth. We got a couple of issues like right here, Scotty, where it's a little bit deeper than everything, and we're gonna come back at a later point and attack that. And this rear quarter's all finished, blocked up, a couple little tiny dingies. We're gonna wait for our master painter here, and then we're gonna block it again. And the DP90 will fill a lot of that slight imperfections that are gonna show up when we paint the car black. So this car has to be blocked, reblocked, and even blocked after we paint the car, and then blocked once we clear coat it. This is a very fragile area in terms of working. You've got probably 5, 6 different angles coming into one spot. So you have to figure out what is the high bubbly side, what is the low side, where there's a dent. There's like a little dent right here, and here it looks like it's pressed out. And here has a lump, and it's supposed to be like this from the factory. The way it's got a dip this side, it's got like a rain dip right here, and then all of a sudden it goes flat. This is the most important part of painting the car, is what we're doing right now there, Scotty. It's constant block sanding. You have to block, when you're blocking, you always want to block one way and then cross hatch it and then go the other way. Especially if we're painting it with the black, we're gonna have issues if we don't block sand this whole car. When you're taking care of a dent and you're block sanding it, see right here where it's shiny in the center? Well, that's because there's a dent there. And we're gonna block sand it as much as we can until we get down to the metal on the outside. Block sanding the hood, and the hood is one of the weakest areas of the car. You let the weight of the machine do the work. Don't press down while you're using one of these here type of sanders. In our next video series, we're gonna pull the engine out of the car and we're gonna decide what we're gonna do. Once we pull the engine out, we see the numbers on the block and we know whether it's a factory engine that came from the car. I still don't know that, but either way, the engine that's in the car is gonna be the one that we're gonna build. We're gonna paint it, we're gonna tear it down, make sure everything's all brand new in the engine, so when we put it back in, it's gonna drive. And it's gonna be a driver car for everybody.